It always starts small. A setting, a decision, a moment that feels completely harmless. And then something shifts. Something you don't notice right away. Something watching you before you even realize you're visible. The first time I noticed it, it was just a blue dot, floating on a map. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. Just me. I remember exactly where I was that day. It was late evening, the kind where the sky turns that dull gray before fading into darkness. I had just gotten home from college, tired, drained, scrolling mindlessly through my phone while lying on my bed. Snapchat. Out of habit, I opened it. Streaked messages, random snaps. Then my thumb drifted to the map. Snap map. I hadn't checked it in weeks. Not since I turned my location sharing back on. I don't even remember why I enabled it again. Maybe curiosity, maybe boredom, maybe just wanting to feel connected. That was the excuse everyone used. The map loaded slowly. Bitmojis popped up one by one. Friends scattered across the city like glowing pins. Some at cafes, some at home, some still moving. And then, there was one I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was just a glitch. A Bitmoji I didn't remember adding. But the longer I stared at it, the more something felt off. Because it wasn't moving. Not even slightly. And it was close. Too close. Right across the street from my house. I sat up. My eyes narrowed at the screen. Maybe it was just someone passing by, someone who stopped for a moment, maybe a neighbor. Yeah, that made sense. I zoomed in. The Bitmoji stayed still. No name popped up immediately, just a blank profile. That was strange. Everyone had a name. Everyone had something. I tapped on it. Nothing happened. Just a loading circle, spinning. And then, error. I frowned. That uneasy feeling started to creep in. The kind you can't explain. The kind your brain tries to dismiss, but your instincts don't. I locked my phone and tossed it beside me. Overthinking, I muttered under my breath. But the feeling didn't go away. 10 minutes later, I picked up my phone again. Opened Snap Map. The Bitmoji was still there. Same exact spot. That's when I did something I shouldn't have. I zoomed in further. And that's when I realized it wasn't across the street. It was directly outside my house. A cold wave rushed through my body. I sat completely still. My room suddenly felt quieter. Too quiet. Slowly, I turned my head toward the window. The curtains were half open. The street outside was dimly lit by a flickering streetlight. Nothing moved. No cars. No people. Just silence. I swallowed. Relax, I whispered to myself. It's just a glitch. But my hands, they weren't steady anymore. I checked the map again. Still there. Still not moving. Still watching. That's when a notification popped up. A message. From someone I didn't know. Nice view. I froze. My heart skipped. Slowly, I opened the chat. The username was random. No profile picture. No snap score. Just empty. I stared at the message, trying to make sense of it. Trying to convince myself it was a coincidence. Then another message came in. You should close your curtains. My chest tightened. Every instinct in my body screamed the same thing. Don't look. But I did. I turned my head slowly toward the window. The curtain was slightly open. Just enough to see outside. Just enough for someone else to see inside. I shot up from the bed and rushed to close it. My hands fumbled with the fabric as I pulled it shut completely. My breathing had turned shallow, vast, uncontrolled. I stepped back, my mind racing. Who was that? How did they know? My phone buzzed again. Too late. I felt something drop in my stomach. Something heavy. Something real. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't random. This was someone watching me. I grabbed my phone and opened Snap Map again. The Bitmoji was gone. Just like that. No trace. No sign it was ever there. I stared at the empty street on the map. Zooming in, zooming out. Nothing. But somehow, that felt worse. Because now I didn't know where they were. The rest of the night, I didn't sleep. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow felt alive. I kept checking the map. Over and over again. Nothing. Around 2:30 a.m. I heard it. A soft sound. Right outside my window. Like footsteps. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked. Then, a faint tapping. Tap, 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 coming from the glass. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought it would give me away. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't even blink. Then the tapping stopped. Silence again. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. I couldn't tell anymore. And then, my phone lit up. Another message. Same account. I can still see you. My blood ran cold. I didn't open the curtain. I didn't respond. I didn't move. Because deep down, I already knew. They didn't need the window anymore. They already knew where I was. And somehow, that blue dot on the map had turned into something much more dangerous. Something that didn't just show your location. It revealed your life. And once someone sees that, you can't hide. Not really. Not anymore. The next morning, I checked Snap Map again. And this time, there were **3, unknown Bitmojis, all surrounding my house. There's a difference between fear and realization. Fear is what you feel in the moment. It's fast, loud, chaotic. But realization, that's slower, quieter, and far more dangerous. Because realization is when your brain finally accepts something. You wish it didn't have to. The next morning, I didn't want to check. I really didn't. But curiosity has a way of overriding fear. It whispers things like, maybe it was nothing. Maybe you imagined it. Maybe it's gone. So I opened Snapchat. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Not yet. I tapped on Snap Map. The screen loaded. Slowly, painfully slowly. And then, they appeared. 3 Bitmojis. All in different positions. All around my house. One in front. One behind. One right next to my backyard fence. My stomach dropped. I zoomed in. Hopping, praying it was some kind of visual glitch. But no. They were placed too perfectly. Too intentionally. Like someone had mapped out my house. None of them had names. None of them moved. And none of them responded when I tapped. That same empty loading circle. That same error. But this time, there was something new. A message. *good morning. I didn't even remember opening the chat. But somehow I was already there. Staring at the screen. Staring at those words. Another message followed. You sleep a lot. My throat went dry. That meant they didn't just see me last night. They were still there, watching, waiting. I immediately turned off Snap Map. Ghost mode. No hesitation. No second thoughts. For a moment, I felt relief, like I had just shut a door, locked it, secured it. But then a thought crept in. What if it's already too late? Because turning off your location doesn't erase what someone already knows. I got up and walked toward the window. The curtains were still closed. Tightly, completely. I didn't open them. Not fully. Just a slight gap. Barely enough to see outside. The street looked normal. People walking. A car passing by. A dog barking in the distance. Everything felt ordinary. But that was the problem. Because something about ordinary didn't feel real anymore. I stepped back. My chest tight. My thoughts spiraling. I needed to leave the house. Get out. Be somewhere public. Somewhere safe. So I grabbed my keys, my phone, and walked out. The sunlight hit my face, but it didn't help. Not really. Because as I stepped off the porch, I noticed something. Across the street, a car, parked, engine off, windows slightly tinted. I hadn't seen it before, and maybe it wasn't new. Maybe it had always been there. But now, it felt different. I kept walking, pretending not to notice, but my eyes kept drifting back to it. No movement, no sign of anyone inside. Still, just like the Bitmojis, I got into my car quickly, locked the doors, started the engine, and as I pulled away, I checked my rearview mirror. The parked car didn't move, but something about it stayed with me, like a question without an answer. I drove aimlessly for a while. Didn't really know where I was going. Just needed distance. Eventually, I ended up at a small cafe. Somewhere crowded, somewhere loud. The kind of place where nothing bad could happen. At least, that's what I told myself. I sat in the corner, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and kept checking my phone. Snapchat, messages, nothing new. But then, out of instinct, I opened Snap Map again, even though I had turned it off. And for a second, I felt relief. My Bitmoji was gone. But then, I noticed something else. The 3 Bitmojis were still there. Same positions, same stillness, surrounding an empty space where I used to be. My heart started racing again. That's when it hit me. They weren't following my location anymore. They were waiting for me to come back. I locked my phone. Hard, like that would somehow shut it all out. Hours passed. I stayed in that cafe longer than I should have. Watching people, listening to conversations I didn't care about, trying to feel normal. But normal was gone. By evening, I had no choice. I had to go home. The drive back felt longer, heavier. Every turn, every stop, felt like I was being watched. When I finally reached my street, my grip on the steering wheel tightened. The same car was still there, same spot, same stillness. This time, I didn't look away. I slowed down slightly, trying to see inside, trying to catch even the smallest movement. Nothing, but just as I was about to pull into my driveway, The headlights turned on. I flinched. The engine started. And slowly, the car began to move. Not fast, not aggressive, just slow enough to make sure I noticed. It passed right by me, and for a brief second, I saw inside 3 figures, all sitting still, all facing forward, not looking at me, not reacting, just there. My chest tightened because something about them felt wrong. Not dangerous, not aggressive, just empty, like they weren't people. I pulled into my driveway quickly, got out of the car, rushed inside, locked every door, every window. My hands were shaking again. I didn't even think. I just opened SnapMap, and there they were. The 3 Bitmojis. No longer outside. Now, they were moving. Slowly, all at the same time, toward the center of my house. Toward me. My breath caught in my throat. Because this time, they weren't still anymore. And something told me they had finally decided to come inside. As I backed away from the screen, I heard it. A door inside my house, slowly creaking open. There's a moment when fear stops being a feeling and becomes a certainty. Not a possibility, not a what if, but a cold, undeniable truth. Someone is inside. The sound came again. That same slow, deliberate creak. I stood frozen in the middle of my room, my phone still in my hand, SnapMap glowing on the screen. 3 Bitmojis, still moving, still closing in. And somewhere in my house, a door had just opened. My first instinct was to run. But where? Out the front door. What if they were already there? Out the window. What if that's what they wanted? My brain was racing, but my body wouldn't move. Then I heard it. A step. Heavy, slow, not upstairs, not outside, inside, on the ground floor. That snapped me out of it. I rushed to my bedroom door and locked it, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the key. Silence. For a second, I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was just the house settling. Maybe I was losing it. Then, another step. Closer. And then something worse. A voice. Low. Calm. Hello. My blood ran cold. That wasn't my voice. That wasn't anyone I knew. And it definitely wasn't supposed to be in my house. I backed away from the door slowly, trying not to make a sound, trying not to breathe too loudly. My phone buzzed. I nearly screamed. Another message. Same account. Don't hide. I clenched my jaw, my entire body shaking now. How did they know? Unless they could see me. I turned slowly, scanning my room. Closet, window, under the bed, corners, nothing. But that didn't mean anything anymore. Because last night, they didn't need to be inside to see me. Another step outside my door. Then silence. Then a soft knock. 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. My heart felt like it was going to explode. Open the door, the voice said. Still calm. Still controlled. I didn't respond. Open it and this stops. It stops. What does that even mean? My grip tightened around my phone. I opened Snap Map again. The 3 Bitmojis had stopped moving. They were right on top of each other. Right where my room was. Right where I was. I felt something break inside me. This wasn't just tracking anymore. This wasn't just someone watching from outside. This was coordinated, planned, deliberate. Another knock. Louder this time. Last chance. My breathing became uneven. My vision slightly blurred. I had to think. I had to do something. Police. I opened my phone, dialed the number. My fingers barely working. But before I could press call, the knocking stopped. Completely. Silence. Too sudden. Too unnatural. And that's when I heard it. Behind me. A whisper. You're too slow. I spun around. Nothing. No one. But the voice. It wasn't from the door. It was inside the room. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. I backed into the wall. My eyes darting everywhere. Closet. The closet door was slightly open. I was sure I had closed it earlier. I was sure. But now, there was a gap. Dark. Still. And then, it moved. Just slightly. Like something inside shifted its weight. I couldn't breathe. Slowly. Against every instinct in my body. I stepped closer. One step. Then another. The floor creaked beneath me. The gap in the closet widened. Just a little. And from the darkness, a hand, pale, still, resting against the edge of the door. I stumbled backward, falling onto the floor. My phone slipped from my hand. The screen still on, still showing Snap Map. 3 Bitmojis, now merged into one. And the name finally appeared. We see you. I scrambled back, my entire body shaking violently now. The closet door slowly opened wider, revealing nothing. The hand was gone. The darkness inside, empty, completely empty. I blinked, confused, terrified. Was it real? Did I imagine it? Then, the bedroom door behind me clicked, unlocked. Slowly, it began to open. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even think. The door creaked open, inch by inch, revealing the hallway. Empty, completely empty. No footsteps, no voices, no signs of anyone. Just silence. I stayed there for what felt like forever. Waiting, listening, watching. Nothing happened. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I grabbed my phone. Snap Map was blank. No Bitmojis. No messages. No trace. Like none of it ever happened. But I knew better. Because as I slowly stood up, I noticed something on my floor. Right in front of the closet. A single object. A phone. Not mine. Old. Scratched. Still on. And on the screen, Snap Map. With one blue dot. Moving. Slowly. Away from my house. I picked up the phone. And just before the screen went black, a final message appeared. Next time, don't turn it off. Fear can make you run. Panic can make you hide. But sometimes, the most dangerous thing you can do is start asking questions. I should have called the police. That's what anyone would say. That's what you're probably thinking right now. And yeah, I thought about it. I really did. But how do you explain something like this? 3 people or things inside your house, with no signs of entry. Messages from an account that doesn't exist. A phone that wasn't mine. Tracking something that shouldn't be there. It didn't make sense. And when something doesn't make sense, your brain tries to fix it, tries to rationalize, tries to find patterns. So instead of running from it, I made the worst decision possible. I leaned into it. I picked up the phone again, the one I found on the floor. It felt wrong, cold, like it didn't belong in my hands. The screen was still on. Snap Map still open. That single blue dot was still moving. Not fast, not random, purposeful. I followed it with my eyes, zooming in, zooming out, trying to understand where it was going. It wasn't heading into the city. It wasn't going toward crowded places. It was heading somewhere quiet, isolated, almost like it wanted to be followed. A chill ran down my spine, because suddenly, it didn't feel like I was tracking it. It felt like it was leading me. I looked at my own phone. Snap Map still empty. No trace of anything. 2 devices. 2 completely different realities. One showing nothing. The other showing everything. I swallowed hard, then did something I shouldn't have done. I left the house. Again. But this time, it wasn't to escape. It was to follow. The streets felt different now. Darker, quieter, even though it was still early evening. Every passing car made me flinch. Every shadow felt intentional. But I kept going, eyes glued to the screen, following that blue dot. It moved steadily, never stopping, never hesitating, like it knew exactly where it was going. After about 20 minutes, I noticed something strange. The surroundings started to change. Fewer houses, more empty lots. Streetlights became scarce, flickering, unreliable. And then, the road narrowed. I slowed down, a sense of dread building with every second. The blue dot was getting closer. And then, it stopped, right ahead. I looked up. There was a building. Old, abandoned, windows shattered, walls covered in graffiti, a rusted gate hanging loosely at the entrance. It looked like it had been forgotten years ago. And yet, the blue dot was right inside it. My hands tightened around the phone. This was a mistake. Every instinct in my body screamed it. But something else, something deeper, pushed me forward. Curiosity, the same thing that started all of this. I stepped out of the car. The air felt heavier here. Still, too still. I walked toward the building slowly, each step echoing louder than it should. The gate creaked as I pushed it open. The sound cut through the silence like a warning. But I didn't stop. I kept going. Inside, it was darker than I expected. The smell hit me first. Damp, rotten, like something had been left there too long. I turned on my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing broken furniture, scattered debris, and something else. Phones, dozens of them, lying on the ground, on tables, some cracked, some still intact, all facing upward, all turned on. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped closer. Every single phone was open to Snap Map. Every single one, showing a blue dot, moving, different directions, different paths, like a network, like a system. I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't random. This wasn't just one person. This was organized, planned, built. A sudden noise behind me made me freeze. A footstep. I turned slowly. Nothing, but the feeling was back. That same feeling from before. Being watched, not by one person, but by many. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A new message. Not from the same account. From a different one. You made it. My heart dropped. Another message. Most people don't. I backed away slowly. This wasn't just happening to me. There were others. Other blue dots. Other people. Tracked. Watched. Followed. And somehow connected. I turned back toward the entrance. But something stopped me. On one of the phones, a familiar location. My house, with a blue dot. Still there. Still active. I stared at it. Confused. Terrified. Because I wasn't there anymore. So who was? The screen flickered. And then, the dot moved. Inside my house. Room to room. Like someone walking around. I felt my knees weaken. Because whatever I had encountered, it didn't need me anymore. It had already replaced me. A final message appeared on the phone in my hand. The map updates whether you're there or not. As I slowly looked up, I realized I wasn't alone in the building anymore. There were footsteps. Multiple. Closing in. There's something people don't understand about fear. It doesn't just make you scared. It changes you. It rewires the way you think, the way you react, the way you see the world. Because once you realize you're not in control anymore, you stop trying to escape. You just try to survive. The footsteps were getting closer. Not one, not two, many, echoing through the empty building. Slow, measured, like they weren't in a hurry, like they already knew. I had nowhere to go. I backed away instinctively, my hand gripping the phone so tightly it hurt. The flashlight flickered. For a split second, everything went dark. And in that darkness, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Whispers. Not one voice. Dozens. Layered over each other. Too quiet to understand, but too clear to ignore. I stumbled backward, nearly slipping on the dusty floor. My breathing was out of control now. Sharp. Panicked. This isn't real, I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew it was. The footsteps stopped. Silence. That same unnatural silence. And then, a voice. Right behind me. You shouldn't have followed. I turned around instantly. Nothing. But the air felt wrong. Heavy. Occupied. My phone buzzed violently in my hand. I looked down. The screen had changed. No longer Snap Map. Just a black background. With a single line of text. Asterisk location locked. My heart dropped. Before I could react, the screen shifted again. A map reappeared, but this time, it wasn't like before. There were no Bitmojis, no streets, no names, just dots, hundreds of them, all over the screen, some moving, some completely still, and one glowing brighter than the rest. Mine. I tried to close the app. Nothing happened. I tried to turn off the phone. It wouldn't respond. It was like the device wasn't mine anymore. Another message appeared. You're visible now. My chest tightened because suddenly I understood this was never about SnapMap. Not really. SnapMap was just the door. Something else was behind it. Something that didn't just track location. It collected people, marked them, stored them, like data, like targets. The whispers started again, louder this time, closer. I spun around, and that's when I saw them. Figures, standing in the darkness, barely visible, not moving, just watching. Their faces, I couldn't see them clearly, but their posture, their stillness, it matched something I had seen before. The car, the three figures inside it, perfectly still, perfectly empty. My stomach dropped, because now, they weren't behind glass. They were here, with me. I took a step back. They didn't move. Another step. Still nothing. But the whispers, they followed me, wrapped around me, like they were inside my head. You shared it. You showed us. You let us in. I shook my head violently. No. But it didn't matter. Because they were right. I had shared it. My location. My life. My routine. Every movement. Given away. For nothing. The glowing dot on the screen pulsed again. Faster now. Brighter. And then, the screen zoomed in. Closer. 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 Until it showed the building. Then the room. Then, me. Standing exactly where I was. A live view. From above. My entire body went numb. Because I wasn't just being tracked anymore. I was being watched. In real time. Another message appeared. Do you want to disappear? My breath caught. Disappear. What does that even mean? Before I could think, another message replaced it. Or do you want to stay on the map? The whispers stopped. The figures still didn't move. Everything was waiting. Waiting for me. For my choice. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Two options appeared. Yes. No asterisk. My heart pounded in my chest. Because somehow, I knew this wasn't just a question. It was a decision. One that would change everything. Forever. I looked up. The figures were closer now. Not by much. But enough. Enough to know. They weren't as still as I thought. I looked back at the screen. My reflection stared back at me. Pale. Terrified. And then, without fully understanding why, I tapped. The screen went black instantly. The whispers stopped. The figures were gone. Everything was silent. Gone. Just like that. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes. Hours. Eventually, I found myself outside. standing next to my car. The building behind me looked exactly the same. Empty, abandoned, like nothing had ever happened. I drove home in silence. No thoughts, no emotions, just emptiness. When I got there, everything seemed normal. Too normal. My house was untouched. No signs of anyone. No movement. Nothing. I walked inside slowly, each step cautious, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. I went to my room, closed the door, sat on my bed, and stared at my phone. My real phone. The one I always used. I opened Snapchat. My hand steady now. Too steady. Snap Map loaded. And there it was. A blue dot. Right where I was. Normal. Alone. Safe. At least. That's what it looked like. But something felt off. I zoomed in. Closer. Closer. And that's when I saw it. Another dot. Right next to mine. So close. They were almost touching. Not moving. Just there. I stared at it. Waiting. Hopping. Praying. It would disappear. But it didn't. Instead, a message popped up. From a new account. You chose to stay. My heart stopped. Another message followed. We'll see you again soon. The screen flickered. And for just a split second, that second dot moved. Closer. Snap Map doesn't just show where you are. Sometimes it shows who's already there with you.